Good morning. It is Friday, and that means it's time for a dose of Disney discussion. Came up with that one on the spot. I must be more awake than normal. Either that, or I'm finally sleep deprived to the point of actual delusions. Either way, though, today the plan is to discuss some of the more adult extras at Disney. Now, that does not mean anything that you would normally think of that you label as adult, but it does mean things that might work better if you don't have small kids with you. Obviously, you'll be aware by this point, my wife and I are off for our 10th anniversary. We're leaving the grandkids at home, going with just us. So I've been researching a lot of things that are great for adults traveling without kids. Now, one point that I will make very early on with this is that I am finding a lot of the things that are targeted towards adults not traveling with kids come at an extra cost. Obviously, Disney understands that if you're traveling with kids, an extra cost is harder to pay, whereas if you're traveling without kids, they expect that the money that you would have spent on the kids, you can instead spend on yourself. So, I kind of understand the business model of it. It's sometimes frustrating, but that's also not to say that everything targeted at adults comes at a cost, just that it's more common for them to. Now, I want to talk about two big ones this morning. The Keys to the Kingdom tour in the Magic Kingdom. Now, this is a 5-hour event, a 5-hour walking tour. So, yes, it is going to take up most of a park day. So I would only really recommend it probably on holidays where you are going to be over there for maybe a couple of weeks. If you're going for 3 days, probably wouldn't spend one of them doing the tour. But we're going for 2 weeks, so we're looking at spending a day doing the tour. Now, what does this tour include? Well, it's $99 per person, so $100 a person. You show up in the morning, I think it's 9 a.m., at, I think, guest services at the, basically, Main Street in the Magic Kingdom. Everyone in the tour group is given a headset, an earpiece thing, so that you can actually hear the person who's giving you the tour, even when you're among crowds in public areas. So that's a good way of making sure everyone knows what's going on. You're taken down Main Street. You're given a lot of the history of the park, the history of a bunch of the names over the shops. I've read about some of it, but I know a lot of people don't realize that all of the shops that are dressed up on Main Street, that's all Easter eggs to important people in the history of the parks. So you get a lot of that information. You get taken through the park. You get shown down into the utilidors, the tunnels beneath the park. You get a couple backstage tours from a couple rides. I know the rides do change up from time to time. I've been reading a few people that have talked about being on the tour who said they got to go basically backstage at the Haunted Mansion, and then they got to, after seeing it from the backstage perspective, then they got to ride it as part of the tour as well, which is quite nice. Your lunch is provided. I've heard of a couple different places again that lunch can be, probably dependent on which rides you're going on and where they're going to have you in the park. You also get, of course, a commemorative pin. So if you're into pin trading, which I am, that's a bonus. I mean, special edition pins can cost you upwards of $25 on their own. So if you take the cost of the pin separately from the tour, it actually really makes the tour a much better discount. And then if you factor in the cost of the lunch that you're getting as well, which I think is like a quick service meal. So, I mean, you're talking $20-30 for that, $25 for the pin. You've got half of the tour covered in those aspects right there. You get to see some of the parade floats back in the buildings that they are stored in, so you get a little bit of an up close with them. You just get to see a lot of the behind the scenes kind of niftiness of the park. And I've heard some people complain that they thought that the tour might ruin the magic of Disney. Personally, I'm one of the people that actually has a lot of respect for Disney because of the way they do things. And I understand kind of the behind the curtain logic of a lot of it, and it only makes me respect them more as a company. I mean, it's very easy to say, oh yeah, Disney's this big evil company that's grabbing up every property and overcharging us for everything. I hear people say that all the time, but really I think they're just a well-run company. You know, if you have something and people want that thing, then you're an idiot to undercharge for it. And they keep raising prices, yes, but they keep having fully booked out hotels and at capacity parks. So obviously we're still willing to pay it, so some of us must think it's still good value. Anyway, that's the Keys to the Kingdom tour. Now, I won't go into them as much detail, but I do know that there are also walking tours at a couple of the other parks. Epcot, I know, has one. Animal Kingdom, I don't think it's quite the same thing, but I think you can actually go back and see kind of where the veterinarians work on the animals and things of that nature. I don't know anything about a backstage at Hollywood at the moment. With all of the construction going on, though, it would not surprise me if that was what they're not doing right now. So, there we are. That's one very nice thing that you can do at Disney that is targeted more towards adults than kids. That's a daytime thing. I also want to provide you with a nighttime thing. Now, this one is a bit more expensive. It is called the Highway in the Sky Dining Experience. Now, this is $170 per person. But what you do, pardon, you show up at the Contemporary, at the Wave, and you check in. And you start out with some cocktails and appetizer at the Wave, at which point you hop onto the monorail. You get zipped around the Seven Seas Lagoon to the Polynesian, where you head into Ohana's for some island-themed drinks and another appetizer. From there, jump back onto the monorail. You head around to the Grand Floridian, into Citrico's, where you are treated to a chef's special main course. At which point, as you can guess by now, you jump back onto the monorail. You head back to the Contemporary yet again, but this time, instead of going into the Wave, you go into a private terrace area that is assigned specifically for the people that are doing the dining in the sky. I can't say it's going to be just for your group, because it depends on how big your group is. And in this private terrace, you have dessert, you have coffees, you have drinks, and as you're having all of this, having this lovely time on this rooftop terrace, it is all timed so that you can stand on that terrace looking out and watch the evening fireworks in the Magic Kingdom. The music is piped in through speakers, so you do get the full experience. I know that a lot of out-of-the-park viewing areas, you can't hear the show. And hearing the show is so much of the Disney firework experience that if you can't do that, it's just really not the same show. So there you have it. It will take a couple hours of your night. It's not going to be a quick meal. But if you're wanting to do something nice, something maybe a bit romantic, something that's going to allow you to see into kind of all of these restaurants at these, cornerstone deluxe hotels, without having to book a meal in each and every one of them, it's a great way to make your way around and to try things out. By all means, you might be going in there for an appetizer, but ask them for the menu while you're there. Have a look at what else they've got. You might decide you want to come back for another meal sometime. Or you might decide it's not for you. I know you can look on the menus online. I'm not saying you can't do that. But it's very different sitting in a place, looking around, seeing the ambiance, seeing what the place feels like, and then matching the food up to the feel of the place. Think about it sometime. It makes sense. We eat with all of our senses. So a list of food is never going to look the same as a menu in a restaurant. So, there we are. A morning and an evening thing that you can do in Disney without the kids to have a very different kind of a magical day. These are both things that my wife and I are planning for this trip. In fact, I think we're actually going to do them on the same day. So we're going to have the walking tour and then finish the evening out with our dining around the sky. That's going to be all for now. I'll probably try to come back this afternoon with another video because, as I said, I am very aware that I missed last week due to technical difficulties. To be fair, I actually talked to the camera for about 15 minutes and then realized that due to a technical problem, it was not recording. So, yeah, good times. Have a great day. I'll see you the next time I'm on. Like, subscribe, I appreciate it, and enjoy